Hi everyone, welcome back to your soon-to-be favorite podcast. I'm Angelica.
And I'm Kelsey.
And this is
Here We Grow.
But yeah, I was just saying, like, sometimes I think my voice is too deep.
I think it sounds just like your voice.
Oh, no.
That's what I feared the most.
Do you ever, like, annoy yourself? Like, when you're listening back,
Yes.
you're like, shut the fuck
Yes. Especially because, like, I already know what we said, and then I have
Yeah.
to listen to it again, and maybe even a second time, so I'm like, get on with it. Or, like, I'll say, like, I hate sometimes listening back, I'm like, you're just talking too fucking slow, get to the point. But it's because I already know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like other people don't think that.
Yeah.
And if you do, if you didn't know this, in your podcast app, you can speed us up if you think we're talking too slow. To like 1.5 times or 2 times. Which is how I listen to us in editing now. Because I'm like, I know the story. Or like when we were reading last week.
Yeah.
Like I didn't need to listen to every single detail of what we were reading. Because we were just reading a story. So
now that I've started listening before you go and edit, I can't listen to it like once it's on Spotify. I'm like, I can't. Like,
I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever. It's out there. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Although in the beginning there was like,
yeah, it was a weird cut.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
It didn't like matter. Like
no,
it was nothing like
it didn't mess anything up. But I noticed it because I listened to it on Wednesday. Yeah, I listened to it on Wednesday at work. And I was like, what the heck happened to that weird cut right there? Like it cut off me, like the first part of the sentence I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, I guess that didn't really matter. Nobody's gonna miss it. Nobody's gonna miss that part that it cut out. So,
where is it? What did she say?
It was nothing important. It was talking about the poll on Instagram. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, because I was like, oh, what are the options?
Yeah, it was just the end of it where I was like, yeah. So hopefully you voted for that poll. Like, I don't know what poll you're talking about, lady, but all right. Speaking of Instagram, we put homework for last week's episode where we said, tell us the last time you cried. And we got a lot of great responses. Well, some of them were sad.
I was like,
but I mean, not great, but like
great
a good
interaction.
amount. Yes, a good amount of responses, which I was pleasantly surprised. Like, and that's exactly what we want. We want to build community and, support and stuff like that. So we're going to continue to do stuff like that. So watch our Instagram if you're not already on there. And if you don't have Instagram, you're missing out. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's where we feel most comfortable. So
yeah, it's like our generation.
Speaking of which, hey besties.
Hello.
We forgot to say hi to you. Hi. But yeah, that's where our generation is on Instagram. So, and it's like the easiest to promote a podcast on Instagram, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's harder to do on Facebook. We are trying to do it on TikTok. If you haven't followed us on TikTok, please go do so. And every time you see a video of ours, interact with it as much as you can. Like, even if you really didn't even care about the video, like comment an emoji or something, share it with somebody you know, or, some random account on TikTok. Just get the share numbers up so that it can show to more people on their For You page and give us more views and stuff. I think our highest views so far on TikTok is like 900. So we're close to 1,000. Let's work on that, peeps. Okay.
Which video is it?
I'm about to go check.
Or which TikTok?
I'm about to check. Yeah. So the highest one is 939, and one following that is 905. 939 is your OCD, where you're talking about. It's like the movie Us, where it's like there's a person in your head telling you, like, are you sure you turned off that light? Are you sure you locked the door? That one. It has 114 likes. And then the one I was talking about before that, 905, is the one with Brian, where we're talking about parents should be telling people. Parents should be telling their kids that they're proud of them.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah, so go interact with our TikTok right now. Stop what you're doing, press pause, and go interact with our TikTok. You know you want to. Take a break at work. Maybe not while you're driving.
I was going to say, you're probably on your phone already.
Yeah.
So
you could just go interact with the TikTok. But anywho, today we're talking about religious trauma.
Amen.
Too soon.
Oh.
No, I've
I
got.
thought it was fitting.
It is very fitting. I've got some disclaimers that we'll get to when we jump into it, but we've got a little bit of small talk first. But yeah, what were we going to tell us about the BMV?
Oh my god. Ah, guys, don't be like me. Okay, this is like, what's that word? A testament to.
Well, since you messed it up, I can't figure out what it is.
Okay, never mind.
A
This just goes
testament?
to show you my anxiety. Like
A testament?
a testament to my anxiety. Okay, guys. So
Sorry.
I had a panic attack at work today, and it was not work related.
Should have texted me to calm her down.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm getting married soon, and I started looking into applying for the marriage license. So I get on there, I'm starting the marriage license, I put in my information, his information, our parents' information, yada yada. And then I'm looking at the documents that are required to take to the courthouse. And it said like something like I don't know, ID with an updated address. And I was like, shit, we never updated our address, like our new.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because you guys just moved here in February.
Yeah, we just moved here in February. February? Yes.
Yeah.
In February, and we still have not changed our IDs. Now, granted, we had, for any DMV workers out there that I'm probably going to see on Saturday, we had every intention.
They're listening to this podcast.
We had every intention. Like, that was the first thing we talked about doing. Mm-hmm. Like, he talked about it, I talked about it. Like, we were like, oh, let's go do it this day, whatever, right? And then we didn't. We started buying stuff for the house, started hosting parties, like, and then we started planning the wedding. So like, it just kind of slipped to the
back burner.
Yeah, bottom of the priority list. And now that I'm trying to get married, I'm like, oh shit, like we need to go do that. So I was like, oh, it should be easy. Let me go do it online. So I go to do it online, and it said that I have to go in person. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. They need all this documentation. And then I read that you should do an address change within 30 days of the moving. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh my god, it's been like 5 months. Oh my god. So logically, my next Google question is, what happens if you don't change your address legally
within the allotted
within 30 days?
Yeah.
Kelsey, I don't know where I saw this. It was mostly people's answers.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like legit websites, but
it was answers like on Quora or
something. Or whatever. It said,
why did it stop?
Oh shoot, I think I pressed something.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't like people it wasn't like legal answers. It was just people giving their experiences. Mm-hmm. And I read on there that you can get fined. It is a misdemeanor, punishable by up to a year in jail. Oh, I literally felt my soul leave my body. I had a layer of sweat all around.
Yeah.
I felt like vomiting.
Yeah.
I started panicking. And to keep me from crying, because I'm at work, and I don't think I can keep quiet crying anymore, okay?
They're going to know. They know what you sound like when you cry now.
Damn it. So I started laughing.
Father Andy. You should have asked Father Andy. Called the BMV.
Oh, yeah. So I tell my coworkers, I'm like, oh my god, like, what do I do? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, am I gonna get arrested? And they're like, calm down, like, you're fine, like, they're not gonna arrest you. And I'm like, but it's been more than 30 days. It clearly says like within 30 days. And they're like, no, I know someone who didn't do it till 3 months later. Like, you're fine, but like, do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
You still couldn't bring yourself down.
I couldn't. Like, I kept reading more and more things, and I kept reading multiple people saying punishable by up to a year in jail. And I'm like, I can just imagine Jose and I innocently walking to the DMV, explaining our situation, and officers are like, you're under arrest.
There's no officers at the BMV.
What if they call them? Like, oh my god. So I'm like, I freak out. So I call Jose. He's busy. So he's
Yeah.
like, just text me. So I'm trying to text him everything. And he's like, well, just call the DMV and like ask them like
Yeah.
what'll happen if
Yeah.
whatever. So I literally dial, and then I'm like, no, they're definitely gonna call the cops on me now. They have my number. I'm literally confessing.
They put a warrant out for your arrest.
Oh my god! I was like,
you haven't changed your address. I'm calling the police right now.
This is her the type of vehicle she's driving. This is her plates. Like,
Yeah.
I had the worst anxiety. I was like, nope. I hung up. Like, miss me with that bullshit, bitch. And I hung up, and I was like, oh my god. Like, okay. I'm like, look, I need to talk to Kelsey because Kelsey brings me down. And I'm like, I need to. My coworkers aren't doing it. Like,
Wait, let me read the text you sent me. The first text.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, this is so funny. I mean, I wasn't laughing at the time. I was just trying to figure out what to tell you.
Oh my god.
You said, well, first of all, you texted me earlier today and said, did you know you can marry your first cousin if you're both over 65 years old?
So there's hope, guys. If you want to marry your first cousin, you just gotta wait till you're both over 65.
Okay, so
that's
then,
what it said.
Yeah.
On the marriage license.
So then, 29 minutes later, you said,
this is all within like half an hour. I'm telling you, I spiraled.
Literally 29 minutes later. Oh my god, I'm freaking out. I started applying for a marriage license and then started thinking about how we haven't updated our address on our IDs. Since we've moved, so I go online to try to do it, and it says I have to go in person, and that it should have been done within 30 days, and we had no idea. I'm like, the address change thing is not a hard rule. They won't say anything about it when you go to change it. Are you sure? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. I keep picturing us getting arrested at the BMV. I'm fucking spiraling. My anxiety can't take this.
Oh my god, dude.
I said, I changed mine like a year after we bought our house, and it was only because I lost my ID. LOL. They won't even ask how long you've lived there. And then she said, really? Question mark, question mark. So we've gone down to 2 question marks. I said, promise. And then you go, okay, I'm coming down. ...
Oh,
I said, not changing your address on your ID is 10,000% not an arrestable offense or an offense at all for that matter. When you change your address, they just need to see mail to prove it, and that's why you have to go in. And then you said, I read somewhere punishable by less than a year in jail, and that's when I lost it.
What the fuck?
So I said, weird, maybe in another state, but definitely not here. I've moved like 12 times.
I typed Indiana.
I said, I've moved like 12 times and have never, not once, changed my address in the 30-day period. You said, okay, thank you. I feel so much better.
Oh my god. I almost left. I almost just up and like just left.
Yeah.
I literally was gonna come home, find my passport, find some mail, and go. Like but see me, I'm chatty Cathy. Like I would explain the whole situation.
Yeah. You don't need to say anything. Like, just need to change my address.
Yeah,
and they'll say, okay, you have your documentation. Hand them your documentation. That's it.
That's exactly why I need Jose to go with me, because if I'm going down, he's going down with me.
Not because he needs to keep you from giving too much information.
I can't look. I'm a pussy, okay? I'm a sensitive ass puss. I get that. Like, if you're in customer service, be fucking nice to me, okay? Yeah. Especially when I'm giving you the utmost respect.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not showing any, which I would never treat anyone of like in the service industry with disrespect. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm over super nice, but the BNB people,
they hate their lives.
They hate their fucking lives.
Yeah. So they want everybody to hate their lives too. Yeah.
And so, like, imagine if I would have left my job.
Yeah.
And went to the DMV.
And like,
they would have called the cops on me just for that.
For just crying in the DMV.
This lady's acting crazy. Like, I need you to come get her.
And you're gonna be like, see, I knew I was gonna be arrested.
Oh my god!
And it's all just because you made a scene in the BMV.
Like, I literally imagine going and not like being able to verbalize why I was there.
Yeah.
Oh my god! So we're gonna go do this Saturday.
Good luck.
Thanks. And then we're gonna go. I have to go again.
Well, even if you're going Saturday, like, still maybe go to the Brownsburg one. I feel like it's less busy it'll be less busy than Speedway.
Yeah.
When I got my address changed, I went to the one in Brownsburg because I wanted to avoid the one in Speedway, and it was pretty quick.
Okay, we'll just have to go. I told Jose, I was like, we have to be there like half an hour before they open.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to be there like at least right when they open, so that you're like one of the first 10 people in there.
That's a good idea. I think
if they've got like say 7 people there set up ready to take people, then the first 10 people will get in quick in and out.
Yeah, so we'll do that. So Jose's like, yeah, let me talk. And I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm just going to tell him we're here for an address change and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, bet. Don't even let me talk. Like, don't even let me make small talk.
You're going to be like, bleh.
Oh
Nope.
my God.
You be quiet. They're going to think you're a kidnapped victim.
Oh God.
You're there against your will to change your address from your kidnapper. Anyway. Should we get on to the quote of the week now?
Yes. Do you have any small talk? Oh, I have something.
Okay.
I just want to give a special shout out to my bestie Jess for this Stanley Cup. It's Lainey Wilson edition, who is my favorite female country singer. And yeah, shout out. Thank you so much.
Speaking of country, I was in Kroger yesterday. Yeah, because I texted you yesterday when I was in Kroger. Was it Kroger? I don't remember. But they were playing music, and I'm pretty sure I heard Jelly Roll being played. And like his voice is so distinctive to me now that's like, that's got to be Jelly Roll.
Yeah. I've only ever heard one song,
but he has a distinctive voice. Like you would be able to tell if it's him.
Yeah, I think it's distinctive because it's not polished.
Yeah.
It's very raw and like
rough.
Yes.
Yeah. Like raw and like rough.
That's what makes you stand out.
Raw and rough. You heard it here first, folks.
Raw and rough.
Raw and rough. Okay, so the quote of the week is just like last week, not really a quote of the week, but like a tip that I've heard recently that I'd like to share with everyone. Y'all remember last week I told you to stop shitting yourself. If you don't remember that, it's because you didn't listen. Go back and listen to that episode. This one is...
I really did sound like you said shitting. And I was like, yup, stop shitting yourself.
I think I heard this where I hear everything else, which is probably TikTok. And it was like basically so everybody has like that person or maybe multiple people in their life that are sometimes saying things that are hurtful and maybe they don't realize it's hurtful, or they just don't have a filter and they don't care that it's hurting you. They just say what's on their mind. And this is a tip for how you can get them to shut the fuck up and maybe think about the things that they say to people.
I literally can't, like, how do you think like that? Yeah. How do you say something without thinking like, oh, how is this
hurtful?
Yeah. How is this person going to feel when I say that?
I agree.
I feel like I overthink that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? Read the fucking room, bro.
Right. So this is what you can say to like hold that boundary of like,
oh, I know what you're about
come
to say.
Me correct.
Yeah.
No, this is a different one than I told you.
Oh.
But I can say that one too.
Okay.
Because that ties into this. The one I heard on TikTok recently was like, say someone says like, oh, well, you should really like go to the gym. Then you can say, I'm sorry, are you trying to be helpful or hurtful?
Yeah, that one.
Did I tell you this already?
Yes.
When?
I don't know, like a week ago.
Well, anyway, so the other one that I told Angelica was like, if people are making comments on your body that you're uncomfortable with, like your hair, your weight, or whatever, you can literally just say, or anything, like your parenting, you can say, I'm sorry, I'm not currently taking any comments or advice on blank.
See, but like, I can't do that.
You can. You just have to do it the one time, and then once you do it, you feel so empowered. You're like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
So, I'm giving y'all the power to set your boundaries with people that are saying shit to you that's hurtful, saying shit to you that they might not think is hurtful, or they pretend to think that they pretend that they don't know that it's hurtful.
Oh wait, is this it?
This phrase will instantly shut down passive aggressive people at work and in life. I started using this with people several months ago, and there has not been an instance where I've used it where the person hasn't backed off with their toxic little tail hanging between their legs. The best part is, it is so simple. In your most neutral tone, you're going to ask, are you trying to be helpful or hurtful? You'll be amazed at how this phrase will instantly shut down passive aggressive.
I like how she does that. At how, and then she restarts the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I know this. You're like, no, I didn't tell you. I'm like,
I didn't tell you. I sent you the video.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, give you all the power, set your boundaries, do what you need to do. because setting boundaries is the best thing you can do for your mental health. That's all I'll say about that.
See, I think it's hard for me because
you're a people pleaser.
Well, I'm a people pleaser, and
I am too. I can't talk.
But like, it goes back to there's no way this person. It's kind of like this person is so blunt, and I know this person is blunt that way. That I know they're not saying things to maliciously hurt me. Mm-hmm. They're just saying things because it's just on their head, and they say that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like me saying something like that would catch them off guard and be like, "Whoa, wait, no!" But I wasn't trying to be like. Yeah.
But it's like something that needs to be said because that person then needs to know that they're being hurtful.
I know,
because like, even if they didn't mean it, it's still going to hurt you.
And I wish I could go back and or just be like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
Like,
can you elaborate on that?
Yes, yeah. I wish like I had that like recently.
You're more of like fawning, like
I fucking hate when I fawn. But I was just telling Kelsey how I had a comment recently about my size or whatever, and in the moment I was too stunned to talk.
Yeah.
But I wish I could have been like, "Oh, haha, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Or like ask them, like you said, to elaborate. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Would you like to tell me more about how you hate what I look like, or?
And I really want to like just try that. Like, moving forward.
Well, you'll have the opportunity, I'm sure.
Because fuck people and their thoughts.
Moving up to your wedding, I'm sure you'll have more
people
opportunities.
People be judgmental?
I think older women who don't know their place.
But see, that's the thing. No one on my mom's side will say it to my face.
Mm-hmm. They'll say it behind your back.
And
to other people.
Yeah, and like.
Then when's your opportunity to set the boundary?
But then again, when I say that, I'm thinking about two specific people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's my whole family.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. You think people be mean? About what? You think so?
I mean, from what I've heard already. From what I've heard already, I mean, there's going to be more comments leading up to the wedding.
Like about me?
Yeah. You and Jose, anybody. I mean, they might even talk about your bridesmaids.
That is so true. No offense, but Hispanic people are very judgy. Mm-hmm. And I can say that because I'm Hispanic, okay?
Well, and we talked about, and this is going to kind of lead into the subject a little bit, but we'll take a break before we start. We talked about a little bit of like your mom's expectations, and we can cut this if you want to. Your mom's expectations for like the padrinos and the wedding and everything, and like having the right amount and everybody being married and all these things, and it's all
how it's gonna look.
Show.
Yeah.
It's all what it's gonna look like to everyone else.
Yeah.
And that like perpetuates the judginess, because if there's nothing to judge, then we gotta find something else to judge about. You know what I mean? And it's like, your mom knows everybody's going to be judging, so she's like trying to make it like the least amount judgeable, you know?
That makes me so sad.
I know, it makes me sad too. And it's totally not the reason why you're doing it in the church, and totally not the reason that you guys are getting married. It's not for show. And
well, I think my mom's reasoning is because she comes from a very, very small town where everyone knows each other. Mm-hmm. And so that small town, those people came here to Indy. And so she couldn't escape it. Yeah, so that's all she knows. And like that's all what they know as well.
Right.
But fuck, I mean, I'm over here being like, fuck them, but it's like really my mom is gonna have to deal with it, not me. And I feel sorry. Like, I hope it's up to her standard, and I hope
that she doesn't have to deal with too many judgments.
Yeah, but like honest to never mind, just
you should teach this quote to your mom.
What?
Tell her if somebody's being judgmental, are you being helpful or are you being hurtful?
Oh my god, my mom.
Do you think she would use it? She could be.
My mom's like quick. She's witty.
Right. That's why you should teach her that. Because it's a way of like setting the boundary without being like nasty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like showing the other person that they're being nasty, that you're being messy.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
All right.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. All right. So few disclaimers before we get started, because this is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and I've been doing a lot of deep diving on TikTok, and it's a pretty touchy subject, which we'll talk a little bit about that stuff. But so my first disclaimer is, if the things we're talking about today are not going on at your church, in your religion, or in your home, or have never happened to you, then these things are not about you or your church or your religion or your home. If you feel that you may be triggered by any of the things that we're going to say, please skip this episode. You don't have to listen to it. You're not obligated to. If you feel like this is something that would upset you, you don't have to listen. But we will be talking about things that have actually happened to real people, and their stories deserve to be validated. The best thing you can do if you are religious and love your God and love going to church is to listen to the ways that other religions and churches and parents have harmed their children in the name of their God, and understand that it was wrong and validate their trauma. You know, what religion is at its core is just the way that people find comfort in life, find comfort in tough situations, and find community. And it gets sticky when it becomes about judging other people, othering other people, and forcing people not to trust their own minds. And that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. It's okay to believe whatever you believe. We've talked a little bit about my faith, a little bit about your faith. We'll maybe do an episode just specifically about what we believe at some points. I'll try to keep my faith out of this. You'll try to keep your faith out of this. But we'll have some opinions about the stuff we're going to talk about today. But regardless of what we talk about today, I think whatever you believe is fine as long as it's not harming another person. Whatever God you believe in, whatever religion, whatever church you go to is fine. Whatever helps you get through life, 100% do that. But you can't judge other people for what they do or don't do, and you can't harm other people. Those are my only stipulations. The real trouble lies when people come to church under the guise that they're going somewhere safe, and then they're harmed by the very people that they thought were safe. So it's a little bit more of like what we're going to talk about today. So before we jump all the way into it, we are not going to be talking about cults today. We will have a separate episode about cults. This is more religious trauma that's in like mainstream religion, like regular old churches like down the street, like stuff that's happening at regular old churches, because it's stuff that's not really talked about, and it's stuff that's constantly invalidated by fellow Christians, fellow Catholics, that feel like, well, it's not real trauma or that didn't really happen. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I did want to kind of define a couple of things. And the first one is indoctrination. So indoctrination is the process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. So this is what you see a lot in cults, which is like, this is what you have to believe because this is the only right answer. And you can't ask me any questions about it that would stray away from that answer. And if you do, then you're forsaken, or you're wrong, or you're sinful, or you're whatever bad thing that they want to say about you. So we're going to get into a few things that can be really harmful in mainstream religion. And we are going to read a few stories that we found on Reddit from people who have already been harmed by religion. And we also have some submissions that we got from people who wanted to tell their story. So please just listen with an open mind and an open heart, and just validate that these people actually had really bad things happen to them. And some people who have experienced religious trauma, they have even gone back to the church, not their church that they experienced these things, but gone back to their religion and like seeked God again, and still consider themselves Christian or Catholic or whatever. But just had to heal from the religious trauma that they had been subject to first. So not all of the people that we're talking about are now atheists or agnostics. So just something to keep in mind. So one of the most important things that you probably hear a lot about that I want to bring up is purity culture. And I'm kind of interested to hear your take on like what was taught to you in the Catholic Church about purity. Clearing your void. You clearing your void? You're clearing your throat to avoid, or because you really need to clear your throat?
Both.
Okay.
Purity in the church was taught that you were supposed to be abstinent until you were married.
Did they teach both the boys and girls?
I was about to say that it was a lot more on the girls.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know what the guys are being taught, but in like during mass, it would be like, I remember even recently there was a sermon where the priest was like, if a woman cheats on her husband, she's an adulterer, but if like the guy cheats, it's like not that bad. And it's kind of like, well,
huge double standards.
Huge. I mean, that's the biggest reason why I have religious trauma, because it's the double standards, and it's, you know, everything is the woman's fault.
Yeah. Everything's the woman's fault. That's definitely like a big theme.
All the responsibility is on the woman.
Yeah, like one part of purity culture is teaching young girls that are like too young to be learning this, that they are responsible for not,
oh my God,
like, what's the word? Seducing men and like trying to get them to sin with it. Like, it's a girl's responsibility to make sure that the man doesn't, damn, what's the word? I hate it when this happens.
I don't know. My mom's always told me when I was a kid, a man will only go as far as the woman will let him.
Oh my God. That's not true.
That's not fucking true at all.
A man will go as far as he wants to go if he wants to go there.
Anybody will go as far as they want to go to if they want to.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like put on young girls to say like, you can't dress like this because you are seducing or distracting the man to sin with your body or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not the other way around.
No. Boys don't have to dress a certain way, or they got to take off their hats, but women have to cover their shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like certain Mormon religions where it's like very strict about covering everything from your neck to your knees. And like even they have bathing suits that cover like their shoulders and their necks and stuff, which I can't even imagine now. I can't even picture that. I'm sure we could look it up. Let's look it up real quick.
I remember for my first communion, I had a spaghetti strap dress, and my mom was like in a frantic trying to find a little like
a jacket to go over it.
To cover it. Yeah, I've seen that.
It's like a full body suit with sleeves and everything. That makes sense. It's kind of like a surfing.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like what they wear to surf, except for like this is more like a dress.
Yeah.
Than like a tight bodysuit.
Yeah, yeah.
Anywho, so yeah, purity culture.
And so sorry, just to like butt in there a little bit. My mom would always say like, oh, the woman is supposed to be responsible for being a virgin and all this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she's like, well, I was a virgin when I got married, and I'm like, oh, was Dad? Well, that's different.
Why?
Why?
Is it different?
How?
Why do you have to be holy for God?
But he didn't have to do the same.
And he didn't.
What? And then like the whole stigma about the wedding dress color. Yeah. But nothing against men.
Yeah.
What if they were,
if they're not virgins on their wedding day, then why don't they have to wear a different color?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's different for them.
So that kind of leads me to your body belongs to your husband, so you have to keep it clean and pure for him.
Yes.
But not his body. His body doesn't belong to his future wife.
Right.
That's just so like messed up, because you're teaching young girls at a very young age that their body doesn't belong to them.
I don't know if you know this, but during the wedding ceremony, now I think they do it both ways, but it used to be the man, there's this ritual where the man hands over to the woman, the bride, a bunch of gold coins. And it's basically saying like, I am sharing with you and entrusting you with my money. The coins represent like, because the woman, you're not supposed to work. You're supposed to be staying at home and take care of the babies and pop them out as fast as you can.
Yeah.
So here, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to bring you back all the coin, and you're going to,
Which must have been like kind of weird for your mom to come to America and pop out a bunch of babies, but then still had to work to like
I wonder.
provide.
Yeah, I never asked her about that. Well, she knew I think she kind of already had an idea that was going to happen. Like, I think you kind of develop, okay, like in the States, it's going to be so different.
Yeah. Do you think like if they were still in Mexico, she wouldn't have to work?
I don't know. Yeah, but like down there, work is so like nonchalant and chill. I mean, she didn't work for Maria and I when we were babies.
Yeah.
She didn't start working until I think after the twins were born.
Trigger warning for suicidal ideation and rape. Fast forward to the 37-minute mark to skip this part.
Okay. So one thing that really broke my heart about purity culture is a few TikToks that I saw, and one of them was or no, one TikTok, one was just a story that I heard. The story that I heard was a woman who actually got raped when she was young, and she was so like indoctrinated into thinking like, having sex is a sin and all these things. She like literally was like, okay, so like my one-way ticket to heaven got revoked.
Oh.
When it wasn't even my, like, I wasn't even trying to do anything. It was not my fault. I wasn't trying to have sex. It literally got taken away from me. And people in the church, like, if they knew about it, they still would be like,
absolutely,
you're impure now. Like,
yep.
You're impure.
No
for
one's
your
gonna
husband.
want you.
Yeah, you're impure for your husband, and you're gonna go to hell now unless you like repent. And it's like, okay, so
repent for what?
And I saw another TikTok today. It was like, when I was told that my rapist would be forgiven by God, but I'll go to hell unless I forgive him.
That's such bullshit.
That's so damaging. Not only is it bullshit, but it's damaging to a young girl's mind.
And
like,
self-esteem.
And self-esteem and self-worth. Like, there's so many things that are taught from the Bible that can be so damaging to a young girl's self-worth. And we've talked about on the podcast before that your self-worth is just being built when you're like a preteen. And if something disrupts that, it's really hard to get it back because you have to build it on your own. And so that's something really sad. And then the other one's even sadder. It was a TikTok, and it was a woman who talked about how when she was 17, she got a pregnancy scare, and her parents were super religious. She thought she was pregnant. And she literally planned to kill herself if she was pregnant instead of telling her parents that she was pregnant. Like, it would be easier to kill herself than to face her parents, who are super religious, to tell them that she was going to be having a baby like out of wedlock and before she was an adult and all these things. Like, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Like, if she would have really been pregnant, which she wasn't, she would not be here today because she really truly planned on killing herself instead.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to have to put a trigger warning in for those.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. Like, I remember like going back to the wife has to be pure, but the man, like, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also had this talk with my mom about how, well, like back then there was no like, sure, you had to be abstinent, but did they tell you like, because it's either you're abstinent or you're having sex with your husband to procreate.
Mm-hmm.
There is no in between.
Right.
There's no
pleasure.
There's no pleasure. Okay. Oh my God, it's a different topic.
It's a whole nother topic. Pleasure is not allowed.
Yeah, you're not supposed
Only suffering.
Yes. Oh God.
Procreating and suffering. We'll talk about suffering.
Oh, you're like that. Okay. There's no sex education. So no, like, if you don't want to get pregnant, like,
this is how you prevent it.
This is how you prevent it. Or STDs.
It's like taboo to talk about it.
Yeah.
Which is very go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, it's really fucked up when the woman has to be pure, but let's say her husband's a fucking whore or sleeps with someone who sleeps around, gets an STD, brings it to his wife, and now this poor girl has a disease that
she's never like stepped out on him before. Yeah.
But like, now she's having to go to the doctor and be like, well, now these are my symptoms.
Now
like,
she's
what's
quote
going
unquote
on?
Unpure. Yeah.
Like, that's terrible.
Yeah. And
it's like, I don't think there was sex education for the guys either. Like, I don't think they knew that either. Like, there's a lot of things that I didn't know about STDs growing up that I wish I did.
There's so many things about sex that you didn't know growing up, even to adulthood, that we've uncovered recently that was like, damn, why didn't you know that? Like, whose fault was it that you didn't know that?
Did you watch Bridgerton?
No.
God. Okay, Bridgerton, real quick, right?
Yeah.
So it's like set in the I don't know, Victorian ages or whatever. So again, so like the woman has to be pure, the guys can sleep around, whatever. It's kind of like a known thing that they sleep around. So the main girl and the main guy, they get married and they start to have sex.
Yeah.
And we know, because as a viewer, I mean, we know.
Yeah.
When he's about to, he gets off of her and like in his hand. So sorry about this, so gross. But anyways, she didn't think anything about it. She just like, she didn't know. Like, it's her first time. She has no idea what's going on. She thinks that's normal, whatever, right? Well, then she can't get pregnant. And she's wondering why she can't get pregnant. because that's all she wants is to have a baby.
Right.
And then she comes to find out that his seed has never been inside her to create a baby. And so she tells her mom, like, why did you not educate me on this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm over here fucking thinking just because you hump or whatever, I can get pregnant. No, there's more to this.
Right.
Well, and then it goes to this other thing where she finds out that her husband is intentionally not inside of her because he doesn't want her to get pregnant. But like, she's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why am I not getting pregnant? Like, we're having sex. Like,
she's questioning her own self-worth. And
then she goes, yeah, like, is something wrong with me? Can I not? And then she, oh my gosh. And so anyways, sorry, off topic a little bit, but that scene, I related to that because there's a lot that I wish my mom or like anybody. I look back and like, not to get too graphic, but like I look back at like my early, adulthood or adulthood. I look back at my like teen years and early adulthood.
What were you trying to say?
Adulthood. Adulthood.
Adulthood.
Kelsey, I was trying to be serious.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I look back at my teenage years and my early adulthood where I did some fucking shit that I look back and I'm like, whoa, you should not have been doing that. Or
not have accepted that.
Not have accepted that. Not have, or you should have done it this way. Or like, you should have had more.
You should have expected more.
Well, that, and then I just thought like, okay, like I just have to say yes to everything. Yeah. No, you didn't have to.
Yeah. Well, and now looking back, now that we're talking about this, like I didn't have a lot of sex education either. My parents never talked to me about sex. The only time that it ever happened was when I was dating Travis. When I was like 17. I was like 17 going on 18. And I left the house in a skirt. And my mom, before I left the house, she goes, "Hey, do we need to go see about birth control?" Like, that's all she asked me. I was
because you were wearing a skirt?
Because I was wearing, it was a really high skirt.
But it doesn't matter. Like, that shouldn't have been an indication.
Just because I was wearing a skirt, yeah.
Yeah.
But I had been dating Travis already by this time, 8 months, 10 months. So it...
No, my mom just, she just trusted me that I wouldn't have sex. So she never talked to me about it. I think she trusted me enough.
I think my parents trusted me, but they trusted me to be safe. Not that I wasn't going to, because they were crazy teenagers and they understood, and my parents were really young when they had us, so like they were close to the age, like they weren't that old when we were teenagers and like starting to do these things.
Well, see, I was so brainwashed.
But that's the only like conversation I ever had with my parents about sex ever, was that. Oh, and she said, "Do we need to go see about birth control?" I said, "No, I got it figured out." That was it.
I was so brainwashed that I declared to my mom, "I'm not having sex until I'm married." I said that to her when I was like 14 or 15. Mm-hmm. I declared it. Yeah. And I was sticking to it. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just not going to do it until like my husband, like I was so, this is how you do it. And I'm still kind of that way. Like, when it comes to even having kids, like I told Jose, I will not have kids with you unless we're married. And that's just a standard for me. Mm-hmm. And maybe that has to do with how I was raised, but it is what it, like, that's just how I feel. But anyway,
it's still like stuck in there.
It's still, instilled in me. Yeah. But yeah, I declared it to my mom that like, oh no, like I'm saving myself for marriage. Right. And when she found out that I didn't, she guilt tripped the shit out of me. And I felt so bad. Like, wow, I literally just lied to myself, lied to God, lied to my mom. But I didn't have any intentions to. Like, I didn't like, you know what I mean? Like, things change. Circumstances change. Like, you're with someone you love. Like, whatever.
Yeah. So something that you said earlier, and I said, never mind, go ahead. You said, like, how, like, talking about sex is very hush. Like, talking about pleasure is very hush. Like, no, we don't talk about that. It's inappropriate. Mm-hmm. But the Bible, if it were rated like a movie, is rated R. It's literally rated R, which would be NC-17 in US standards, meaning that only 17-year-olds would be allowed to read the Bible book, like, cover to cover. And that's because there's rape, genocide, incest, torture, infanticide, racism, sexism, homophobia, murder, rape, war, sex, nudity, mass destruction, horror, like anything you can think of in a scary movie is in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And like there are children out here reading it cover to cover. Like that's like people have talked about it being traumatizing for them reading the Bible in a literal sense, like maybe even without someone like depicting it for them and like translating it into like modern day for them. Either way, it's can be traumatizing to read. And I know before anybody says any of this, I know some churches have a altered version
I
of
was
the
going
Bible.
to say I was given an altered
like
version.
A junior Bible or whatever. I've seen that before.
Where it's only the good parts.
But
I never knew about the genocide, the homophobia until I got older.
But there are churches out here that hand a regular old New Testament Holy Bible to a 5-year-old and expect them to read it cover to cover.
I have a Bible and it's dated 2006, I think. So I would have been like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was early 2000. But either way, I was like 10
Under
or
10,
less. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's not.
I found that really interesting that the Bible's rated. So it's like a hypocrisy there. Like we don't talk about sex. We don't talk about sex because it's inappropriate, but we can talk about rape and all kinds of things in the Bible. So that's neither here nor there. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to dive really deep in because we need to hurry up.
Well, actually, okay, this is for Catholicism, and I think Christianity does this too, about the blood and body of Christ. So when I was a kid, it was understood that in order to take Christ into your body, you had to be at your most pure, and that means or insinuates that you had to be confessed, like you had to go to confession. And I think you're supposed to do that probably like, I don't know, once a month or something. I'm not sure what the standard is, but anyway, we would always get to church late, and they would do the confessions before the mass. We'd always get there late, and so at the time when it was time to like go up there, and I'd tell my mom like, no, I can't, like I haven't confessed. My mom would like blend. What am I trying to say? Bend. Blend.
She would blend you in.
Bend the rules and be like, well, if you have good intentions, like if you're not going to do it again, it's okay.
Yeah.
So then I started going up there every Sunday, and I haven't confessed in years. Okay, well, tell me why. I talked to my cousins a couple weeks ago, and they were like, oh yeah, like I can't take the whatever. And I'm like, oh, why not? And they're like, well, I haven't confessed in 3 months. And I was like, oh. They were like, what about you? And I'm like, girl,
it's been some years.
It's been years. And I take that, I almost said ish, and I take that ish every time I go to Sunday. I don't know, I just feel like that's kind of weird too. Like, I feel like
it's very ritualistic.
Yes, it's so ritualistic.
Yeah, especially Catholic Church is very ritualistic. Everything that they do at church, at a Catholic church, is a ritual. And I was thinking about that the other day, like, what is this for? Like, do people actually believe that this is, like, God is watching us do this? Or, like, I don't understand it. Not that I'm not mocking it, but I don't understand it. Like, why are we doing all these rituals? Instead of, like, talking as a community or, like, doing the things that really matter.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, then at the end of every church, not every time, but they'll have people go up there and be like, we'll be protesting at this Planned Parenthood. Please come. Oh, my God. Yeah, and yell at people.
We're not going to get into all that. So, speaking of, like, scary stuff that we were talking about, like the Bible being rated R and stuff, like biblical Armageddon, like end of the world. No one knows when the end of the world will be, and the rapture will come, and God will come, and you'll be judged on the final day. Children are taught that. And that's scary for children. They internalize that. Like there's people who have come out and said that they were terrified of that as children. And because like I've even seen a few TikToks of people saying that as a kid they were so terrified of it, and their priest or their preacher would say like, no one knows when the rapture will be. So then they would say, oh, I know the rapture is going to be tomorrow, like in their head, so that then it can't be tomorrow, like to try to prevent the rapture. Literally, a child with magical thinking thought they could prevent the rapture. Like, how damaging is that? They could prevent the end of the world, the end of their life. That's like, if someone taught my child that, I would be punching them in the face. Why would you teach a child that?
Yeah, it's horrific.
And I don't think people think about these things as damaging until now these
it's so normal for them to talk about it and say it that way.
But now like these generations are coming out and sharing on social media platforms that this harmed me, this hurt me. And then people are like, you know, that kind of fucked me up too. And there are other things that we'll talk about that I know that you can relate to, but like kind of getting into like the scariness of it, right? Like,
not being safe inside your own mind.
Not being safe inside your own mind. Thinking that prayer will keep you safe from demons, hell, or even being struck down by God. Panic attacks brought on by the fear of demons and the devil. Did you ever lay awake at night afraid of demons?
All the time.
Because someone told you that, like, if you don't pray, the demons will come and get you, or like the devil will get inside your head, or like things like that. Like that's taught in mainstream church.
When we would like, you know, my household, whenever we'd get like crazy and there was like arguments left and right, my mom would put on like the church, like on her phone, some live, and she'd start praying, and she was like, the devil's in here, the devil's in here,
and that would scare you, right?
Well, it's just kind of like, oh, like I would literally think like, oh my God, the devil's in here. Like, fuck, like he's trying to get in our family and destroy us and make us all mad at each other. Like,
yeah. Remember when
it wasn't our emotions. No. It was never us personally. It's the demon, like
because mental health doesn't exist.
Right.
Don't rub your eyes.
Oh fuck. I forgot.
So yeah, that was something that was like really big to people, especially now. Like that's one of the main contentions for people who are deconstructing, you know, religious trauma and stuff, is saying that like they would have literal panic attacks, anxiety attacks in their bed at night because they were afraid of demons, or they were afraid that if they didn't constantly say a prayer in their head, that a demon would like work its way into their mind. And then they would be, you know, they would need an exorcism. They'd be possessed. And like, I remember like truly, like, even though as a young child, I don't remember actually truly believing, I always felt like I was just believing because everybody else did. Or like, if I didn't, then something bad would happen. Like, not because I was not a true believer. Then I would still be afraid of like demons because it was taught to children. Like,
can I tell you a story that's not really about demons, but it's about praying?
Sure.
I'm going to be very vulnerable, guys, okay? Like, be nice, okay? So when I was 5 years old, or 6 maybe, I had a really bad case of lice. Like, terrible. My mom had to shave my head. And I remember her telling me, like, we just have to pray, we just have to pray, we just have to pray. So I prayed my little butt off. And it didn't clear for a very long time. Like, this was not your usual case. Like, I had to go to the hospital, like, to get special treatment, right? And I remember after, like, months of praying and it not going away, I remember thinking, like, well, then you don't care about me. Like, I am not, I am not a chosen one because you're not listening. I'm not loud enough. Like, you don't want this for me. Like, and I literally internalized that shit. Like, something's wrong with me.
It messed with your self-worth.
I deserved it.
Yeah. You deserve to be punished. But you were 5. What did you deserve to be punished for?
Oh my God,
for not being a devout Catholic? Yeah. That's horrible. Why would you teach children
I didn't pray hard enough. Like, I didn't say a certain prayer.
That actually takes me to my next point, which is the power of prayer. And there's multiple things wrong with that. And I think prayer should be, and this is kind of my own personal belief, prayer should be what you do to get yourself closer to the God that you believe in, and what you do to find comfort within your struggles and within your life. But it shouldn't be used to change anything, to feel like you're going to change like the outcome of something. It doesn't work that way, and it's never going to work that way. And the problem where it becomes problematic is, I actually saw a post not too long ago that actually one of our listeners shared. So I'm sorry, the listener who you're going to hear this and you're going to know who you are. It kind of bothered me. And it was like one of those like stories of like a mom who took her kid to the hospital, and it was for something like non-life threatening. But while she was there at the hospital with her kid, she heard like in the next room over, doctors telling a woman that her son had died. And it was like a child. And she just began wailing and sobbing and crying because she lost her child. And then out of nowhere, she stops crying and she starts praying as hard as she can, to like asking God to bring her son back. And this is actually a normal part of grief. It's called bargaining. And I could understand why she would do that, or why she would think that she should do that.
Oh my God, I was also taught about bargaining.
Bargaining, yeah.
Like, pray for this, pray to a specific saint, and if this specific saint makes it come true, then you need to go do this afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, you need to like say, okay, well, if you make this come true, I will bring you flowers next time I go to church.
Yeah. So this woman whose son passed away, after praying for a little while, the doctors come back and say, we were able to revive him. He's alive. And the mom who's writing this post, she's like, see what God will do. Look at the power of prayer. That's all fine. That's all very inspiring. But what happens when the mother whose child is waiting for a heart transplant in the hospital is constantly never being matched for a heart and has been in the hospital for years on years and years waiting, and then maybe doesn't ever get a heart and ends up passing away? And she prayed her hardest for that child to be saved. What happens to that parent? That's so damaging, to make people believe that all they have to do is pray hard enough and then God will grant their wishes. And it just doesn't happen for everyone. It does not happen for everyone. Not everyone gets that. And back to what you were saying, it made you feel like you were doing something wrong, or like you deserved it, or like you were being punished.
I was going to say, I like how you said it should be used as something that brings you comfort, but not
as a bargaining tool.
Yeah, like
not to change an outcome.
Yeah, like I would consider myself spiritual with a sprinkle of religious, and how, I remember telling myself, or even telling my mom, like, I prayed for this house and God made it come true. Like, no one can tell me God isn't real. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, you worked really hard on your credit score.
Yeah.
You worked really hard on saving money.
Yeah.
Like, you did this and you did that.
And
but then my brain will go like, okay, but God put you in that position to do that.
And see, the way I look at that, not being like highly religious, is like, okay, maybe this house was meant for you, but like good things happen when they're supposed to. So like, this was just the natural order of things that was going to happen.
But see, if I don't have that mentality, it'll all go away.
Yeah, you feel like if you don't give it to God, if you don't say,
if I don't
see what God did for me, then he'll take it away. And that's another bad part of it, is like, if God is the person that we claim him to be, why would he take good things away from you?
Like, if I don't pray every morning that we all make it safely to work, and someone gets into a car accident and I didn't pray that morning, it's my fault.
Another story that I saw on TikTok was a set of siblings who, mom was super religious. Priest made a scene in church of him trying to heal them of their blindness.
Oh my God, I hate that.
Not full blindness. They had glasses, but they had trouble seeing. Like, they really could not see without their glasses. Really bad eyesight. And after church, because they were healed, their mom took their glasses away. They're like, yep, you're healed. You don't need your glasses. And so they went weeks and months without being able to see anything, probably not doing very well in school, and really feeling like it was their fault. And then once they did eventually get their glasses back, they convinced their mom they can't still see. Their mom made it their fault because they were not true believers.
Oh, yep.
It didn't work on them.
Oh my God.
How damaging is that for a child? That is so damaging for a child. It's your fault that you were not healed of your blindness.
Oh my God, I cannot imagine like being a parent and like telling them that.
We've been looking at preschools for cash, and I wasn't going to talk about this on the podcast, but we've been looking at preschools for cash, and some of the cheaper preschools are in churches, which I can get on a whole rant about that. Like, why is the only accessible way to put your child in preschool in a church? Not that I think churches are bad. Not that I think that they would do anything badly to him or hurt him in any way. But I feel so strongly that I want him to come to his spirituality and his relationship with God when he is ready and when he is old enough to understand it. Not him being taught these things that we've been talking about and then being confused about the way the world works, or confused about his self-worth, or confused about any of that stuff. Like, I don't want him, like, with the stuff we were just talking about, I could not imagine making him believe that the reason that he was not healed of his blindness was his fault because he wasn't holy enough. I can't imagine that. And in my opinion, that mother's spirituality was more important to her than her children's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
She was so afraid that if she didn't truly believe in God and she wasn't a true believer, that she would go to hell, that got in the way of her caring about her children's mental health. Okay.
I was going to say, personally, I think it's lessened now with my mom, but she would say, like, it's my job to get you there. It's my job to ensure you have a place in heaven. It's my, like, duty. Like, I have to raise you in this religion and make sure you believe and you do what you're supposed to do so that we can be together in the end.
Yeah. That's why people are so gung-ho about, like, othering you. Like, if you're not in here, if you're not here, then you're out there, because I don't have time to try to save you if you're not in here with me. And it's like, people take it on their personal duty to save other people, especially the people they love. And it's so, one thing that I saw on TikTok was like, it's so centered around the afterlife that you're not treating the people that you love correctly in the current life, in your present life. And I kind of thought about that for myself too, is like, I've said before that, like, we're not supposed to know what salvation is. If we're just good people in life, then we will find salvation, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And that really leaves a lot of room for being present and being the best person you can be to the people you love, without judging them and making them feel like they're not worthy, making them feel like they're not doing enough to be worthy of God or whatever. It really leaves a lot of room to be very open with people and be accepting of people. I don't know if you had anything else to say about that. I'm going to look at my notes.
Oh no, I was going to say that if a child is not baptized, it's kind of like implied that they won't go to heaven.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well then,
because all children are born sinners.
They're born out of sin.
That's why you have to be baptized, because you have to be forgiven of your sins.
What sins?
What sins did a baby commit?
Like, even if you're married, it's still a sin. Like, sex is still a sin. And I'm like, I don't understand, but you want me to procreate.
But you want me to procreate.
How am I supposed to do that with a head
There's so many contradictions we could get into. But another thing that I wanted to connect to the power of prayer is this statement. The statement that people say all the time, and I think this is probably going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but I think you'll understand once I talk about it.
Oh God, I'm scared.
And it is the phrase, blessed and highly favored.
I knew you were going to say that.
When someone says, move that cup over a little bit. When someone says that they are blessed and highly favored, I really hate the word blessed, because kind of going back to, like, the power of prayer. Like, if you pray hard enough, you'll get it. Like, you'll get what you asked for. But it's like, then are you highly favored over other people? Like, they prayed just as hard as you did. Why didn't they get it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, they didn't. They didn't.
Right. That's the
mentality.
The mentality. Well, they just didn't pray hard enough.
They didn't.
We just know that for sure.
Yeah.
But like you,
or they would have had whatever they needed to get done.
Right. You're praying for this house, right? You're like, God, I really want this house. I really want this house. There's a homeless guy out on 38th and Georgetown Road praying for him a house, and he's praying just as hard as you are, and he doesn't get his house. What does that mean? That you're highly favored over this homeless guy? Why? Because what? You've committed less sins because you prayed harder? It doesn't make sense. And it makes people feel less than when someone says, I'm blessed and highly favored. Over who? Favored over who? That's what I really want to know the answer to.
Well, I'll do you another one. Why is it that some people suffer more than others? Why is it not a level playing field?
Right.
I know you don't have the answer, but like, that leads me to that. Like, well, why is that? Like, why? Or like I've said this before on the podcast, there's like ebbs and flows to people's lives. Like, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, multiple times or whatever. Like, why is that? But like, if you come from poverty, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna stay in poverty.
Yeah.
And so, like, why is that? Like, why? Like, what is the reason?
Why?
But like, what is the reason? I mean, I know there's, people. There's lessons to be learned or whatever, right? I get that, but I'm just like, then if that's the case, that we can clearly say some people are less fortunate than others, then it kind of leads me to believe in some way some people are highly favored and blessed.
But why? What did they do to become highly favored?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's contradicting and not the fair God that they teach us.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not the loving God that loves everyone equally, and yeah.
Well, and furthermore, there are children being sexually, mentally, emotionally, physically abused in the church, in a house of God. So how come the people who are not being abused are more highly favored than the ones who are? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so a lot of people will say, like, the people who have deconstructed from their religious trauma and have gone back to having a relationship with God, they have tried really hard to separate it and say, okay, I have a relationship with the God that I believe in, and this is who I believe he is. And the things that happen in the church are just the people. And that's true. That's
exactly
very true.
How I am.
That's exactly what it is that people made church bad. People made religion bad. People made believing in God something really hard to do because they made it so contradictory, so hypocritical, so judgmental, so sexist, so unfair, so judgmental. I mean, there's no other word for it, that it's hard to be able to completely believe because it's like, this almighty God,
Trigger warning for rape and murder.
Be okay with this?
Fast forward to 1 hour and 7 minutes to skip this part.
Oh my God, I just found out about a story from my parents' hometown of this woman who was, I think, a nun, or she was studying to become a nun, like one of the purest, nicest, genuine people you will ever meet, like giving herself to the Lord. And she got brutally raped and murdered. And I'm like, but she was the
closest to God that any woman could be.
Yeah. How could this happen to her? Like, but it's that mentality that, like, if you pray and if you do all this, then you'll be good. And that just goes to show you that's not the case.
Yep.
But of course, church's answer is there's a reason.
Yep.
God has a reason, and we're nobody to question that.
Right. Speaking of God has a reason and all that, I wanted to talk a little bit about like therapy and mental health when it comes to the church. It's always something that's very taboo. It's like, even like if you go to therapy and you have like a religious therapist, a lot of times they'll be like, okay, go home and pray about it. But because of this, because church is so mainstream, because God is so mainstream, because Christianity and Catholicism are so mainstream, I think that has kept us, this is my own opinion, that has kept us in generations from being able to learn more about our mental health. We've talked a lot about mental health on this podcast, right? Why is it that we are the first generation that's really deep diving into mental health? It's because we have more widespread availability to information, right? Mm-hmm. But when our parents were kids or our parents' parents were kids, the best thing closest to mental health was church, praying to God. God will cure you, right? But we know now that God can't cure everything in mental health. And we're never taught, even us, we're never taught, like literally there should be a class, like in health class, you should be taught about your mental health. You should be taught about panic attacks, what they feel like, anxiety attacks, whatever, how to come down from them, how to help other people who are dealing with mental health problems, like friends and family and people you care about. That should be taught to us. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're back. Sorry we got cut off. So it's going to be like a little weird transition there, but we'll jump right back into it. I don't even remember what we were talking about before we got cut off.
I think we're going to go into stories.
Okay, yeah, let's go to stories and then we can just elaborate on those.
Okay.
Well, I want to hear yours first.
Oh, fuck. Okay, here we go.
Oh, fuck.
All of them? I only have 3 of them.
I have 3 too.
Or you want to go back and forth?
Yeah, we can go back and forth.
Okay. So, story number 1. It's titled, I Need Help. I'm writing this in church right now, and I honestly don't even know how to start this. This is probably going to mostly be a vent, but I need to get it out. I just hope it reaches the right people. I remember being told at a really young age, like toddler age, that if I wasn't Christian, I would go to hell when I died and be tortured for all of eternity. I remember being like 5 and asking my mom, what if someone was the nicest person in the world but wasn't a Christian? Would they still go to hell? And she told me that people are nothing without God and that no matter how good of a person they are, they would burn. When I was little, my parents would tell me that they loved me, but they would always love God more. Even as a kid, that made me feel bad. I'd say in my head, well, I'll still always love you more than I love God. They still tell me that now. My parents are also homophobic, but they're the type to not think that they are because they don't go out of their way to harm gay people. But they are harming a gay person, me. I have tons and tons of stories about how much my parents hate gay people. The things they've said to me, the things I've heard them say to my siblings. They say they're so loving, but their words are so hateful. I get really sad and stressed thinking about how if I ever get married, if I could even invite them. What would I even tell them? And because I'm a minor, I know for absolute certain that if I ever came out to them, they'd send me to a conversion camp because those are legal in my state. Oh my God. My sister is the only person in my family who is openly not a Christian, and even though my parents might not realize it, I see that they treat her differently than me and my brother. They always tell me not to go down her path and other bullshit like that. They also force me to go to church with them every Sunday. I've hated church since I was little. I used to just put on headphones, but they force me to pay attention. I hate the things they say, and I hate hearing people praise God. I hate it so much. Once my mother told me that if she ever found out God wasn't real or I wasn't a, if she ever found out God wasn't real or I wasn't a Christian, she would kill herself. I can never tell them now. I love my parents so much, but I don't know what to do. I hate Abrahamic religions, and I don't care if it's offensive. I hate them all. I've been forced to go to Christian schools my entire life, so I can't talk to anyone there. My summer camp is very Christian. I had a therapist once, but my parents made sure she was also a Christian, and so I didn't feel comfortable talking to her about it. Everywhere I go, it surrounds me. My parents have made it impossible for me to seek help, and this is the only thing I could think of. I have so much more to say, but this is good enough for now. If anyone here has any advice at all or just anything that will help me feel less crazy, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Did she say how old she was?
No. Just says she's a minor.
That's very sad. Like this person, this child is saying that they need help with their mental health. And their parents just continue to surround them with something they don't believe in, something that's not going to help them, and are not being understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that I had in my notes too, is that with religion, especially Christianity and Catholicism, it's very black and white. It's very like you're holy or you're not. You're going to heaven or you're going to hell. You're with us or you're not. You're here or you're other. Like you're a sinner or you're not. Like there's no in between. There's no gray areas. And it actually as a long-term effect creates people who have trouble with black and white thinking. I know someone personally who grew up in a very religious household, and she struggles to this day with really bad black and white thinking, and it gets in the way of a lot of stuff in her life. Like if she's at work, and for instance, like where I work right now, there's never like an end to the day. Like it just overflows to the next day, and you just like continue this cycle of like whatever you don't get done today gets done tomorrow. And it's really hard for her to adapt to that because it's not like done or not done. It's like in between.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really hard for her to adapt to that. Things like that, like really strict black and white thinking. It actually goes against the more healthy way of thinking, which is called dialectical thinking. There's actually therapy tools, treatments based off of dialectical thinking, which means that you understand that two things can be true at the same time, which we've called duality. So like the one that always sticks in my head is like, my parents did things to hurt me, and also they did the best they could with what they had. That's dialectical thinking. And I've said before, like it helps you like be at peace with the situation and like almost like forgiving someone for like what they've been through, even though you're not going to have contact with them because they're harmful to you. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, do you have anything to say about that story?
I was gonna say, like, how isolating does it feel where like you just can't speak to anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Like not even maybe another sibling or your parents.
And tell them how you truly feel.
Yeah, or your teacher, your summer camp counselors, like your therapist. Like, you really cannot say anything. And oh God, that must feel so terrible. And like I said, so isolating. And like it literally, like, they are literally against who you are to the core.
Your core, yeah.
And just walking on eggshells constantly, and
you can't be who you are to the people who created you.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I'm sure, extremely isolating.
Yeah, and then like, what happens when you do have the ability to move out? Do you continue to still not live your life, or do you live your life and risk losing your parents or the love that your parents gave you, or will they shun
there's like
you?
a lot of guilt for that too. Is like, you're the person who disassembled this relationship with your parents, but it was what was best for you.
Right. Very tough.
All right. So this is an anonymous submission that we received. And this person's pronouns are she, her. My parents almost disowned me when I decided to get an abortion at a young age. I think I was 17. We were careful, but still somehow ended up pregnant. It took a lot of thoughts, but I ended up deciding to get an abortion. My parents agreed, but it was my decision in the end, and mine alone. I told my parents about the pregnancy and abortion plan out of respect, and I felt they also had a right to know despite almost being an adult myself. They then proceeded to blame my partner for my decision and said I was being forced into it. They begged me to keep the baby because of their beliefs in religion. I went through with the abortion, and they didn't speak to me for months and didn't want anything to do with my partner for more than a year. Despite having an already rocky relationship with my parents, their reaction made an already traumatic event more traumatic. I still have trouble speaking to my parents because of it. I have 3 beautiful children now, and I don't regret my decisions. But using religion as a weapon hurts when all I needed was their love and support. That's really tough, because it's like, the people who you think should be your biggest support system in the hardest time of your life are not there for you.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people who are supposed to support you through that, and they decided, because they basically used hate against you. Like, they hated what you did, so they showed you that they hated you by not speaking to you for months. There's no other explanation of that.
And if she's 17, she probably lives with them.
Right.
So not speaking to them for months and live in the same household?
Yeah, that's...
Again, how isolating.
Yeah. And they don't want anything to do with your partner either, even though your partner... And she said they were being careful. Like, they tried not to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And it just happened. All right, you have another one?
Oh, God. I remember, like, I would tell my mom that, and she'd be like, no, have the baby. I'll take care of it. And I'm like, no, thank you. Religion haunts my everyday life. I don't know what I would describe myself as anymore. All of my senses and logic tells me that my religion probably is not right, but I can't bring myself to actually stop talking to God and feeling like he's in the background watching, waiting, and maybe there will be some sort of sign or experience. If you catch me with my friends, I would laugh and tell you I'm agnostic or I'm an atheist if I was feeling edgy. If you catch me around my family or older folks, I go back to my default Christian no doubt persona. The more I learn about the Bible on a deeper level, the less I believe, and the more I'm scared to actually read it. The more I learn about the Bible on a deeper level, the less I believe, and the more I'm scared to actually read it. I fear if I did, that I will truly be exposed to the total truth, and if I reject it, I will surely burn in hell. The more I learn about the brain, the consciousness, the more scary the truth becomes that all of what makes up my soul is brain chemistry. It makes sense to me, but it scares me. I used to fear heaven and living forever, believe it or not. But now I do fear not existing. I know when I don't exist, I won't care, so why care now? But I do, it scares me. I've also been really hurt by religion in the past. I just stopped going to church and that was it. But it was something so strong it was something so strong to me for my whole life. Even though I'm not religious, I probably think about religion more than religious people. The theology, the different translations and interpretations, deciphering meanings, it haunts me and I just want to be able to live my life without wronging about it. Thank you for reading. I remember like being a young teen, young adult, and just spiraling too. Like having all these questions and the meaning of life and why does this happen? Why does that happen? Why do bad things happen? Is it the devil?
And not ever getting an answer for it.
And just not, you have to be content. Like he or she, I don't know. Like you have to accept it and you'll be okay, or you reject it and you burn in hell. Like that's just what it is. Like,
yeah, that, like I had said before, like when I was a kid, now looking back, I never truly believed, but I just did it like to fit in and to feel like, because if I didn't, what would happen?
Right.
Like, what if I was wrong? And I feel like a lot of people are walking through life like that now. A lot of people I know are walking through life right now that I know they truly don't believe, but they're afraid to not believe. They're afraid to admit that they don't believe. That's a scary place to be, especially when you're raised in it.
And like, they said too, like when you're unalive, like why should you care about that now? Like now is now. Like be
now
happy
is now. Like
now.
we were talking about earlier, like putting more emphasis on your afterlife than actually living in the present life.
Yeah.
Two things that I thought of that I forgot to mention before we go on any more stories that I wanted to mention was that I heard somewhere that people with religious trauma sometimes will end up having trouble with authority. And the reason behind that is because when you're a child, you're taught to trust the authority, whether that be God, whether that be your pastor, church elders, your parents, whatever. They know what's best. They 100% know what's best, and you shouldn't question them. And then as you're getting older and you start to learn better that they really don't know what's best, that they're also humans, that they don't know the exact word of God, or they don't know exactly what God is thinking or whatever, then your reality is switched and you're like, wow, can I really trust authority? And then it just lays out for the rest of your life, every authority figure you ever have to deal with.
Makes sense.
And then another thing I wanted to mention that I had said before was people's rejections to or objections to people who have actually been affected. People who have been affected and victimized by the church or by their religion or by their parents in the name of God. People on social media, I've seen these videos myself. People on social media will make a video that's like, oh, religious trauma, like mocking it. Religious trauma because your parents made you go to church every Sunday.
That's not it.
That's not what religious trauma is, and no fucking body said that. Not a single person has said that they have religious trauma because their parents made them go to church every Sunday. Now, the church that their parents made them go to every Sunday, maybe they were abused every Sunday, and maybe they told somebody and it was swept under the rug. Or maybe they told somebody and that person was reprimanded and then still allowed to come back to the church, because that's happening today in churches everywhere. Not everywhere, all over. Not every church, but all over. Another one was like, it was another mocking video, and it was like, people who say they have religious trauma. Oh, because your parents wouldn't let you get a tattoo at 8 years old.
Girl.
Like, shut the fuck up.
Clearly have no idea what they're talking
Literally
about.
invalidating people's real traumas, real abuse, real problems that have caused issues throughout their entire life, caused their way of thinking to be skewed, totally skewed, because of something that was taught to them in the name of God and that really should not have been in the name of God. It was not about trying to get tattoos at 8 years old. That was so obtuse. But I did learn about something called, let me see if I can pull it up. So we've talked before about fallacies, and we'll do a whole episode on fallacies. But basically a fallacy is like a way that people defend or like converse with other people that's they think makes sense and is true, but is really contradictory or is based off of things that don't make sense. That's a really bad explanation. One day we'll do an episode on it. But there's a fallacy called the no true Scotsman fallacy, and it's an appeal to purity. It's an informal fallacy in which one attempts to protect their generalized statement from a falsifying counterexample by excluding the counterexample improperly. So that would be like what we were just saying. Like, people are saying, I have religious trauma, and the person's like, oh, religious trauma because your parents made you go to church every Sunday. You falsified, what did they say? you excluded the counterexample improperly. So you use this counterexample back against me, but it was improper. It wasn't the way that we meant it to be. Kind of like I would even say Black Lives Matter. When they say, oh, but don't all lives matter? That I would say is a no true Scotsman fallacy, because it's like, we didn't say no lives matter. We didn't say no lives but Black Lives Matter. We're saying Black Lives Matter too. Like, we should be paying attention to Black lives. So that's just something I wanted to mention. I have a story submission. This one is pronouns she, her.
Excuse me, guys.
My father went from teaching me how to say open up a can of whoop ass and listening to Kid Rock on road trips to preaching about God and the Bible nonstop. He wouldn't let me listen to radio stations with music, only channels with sermons. He only watched sermon TV channels and would yell when I changed it. He told me Harry Potter was witchcraft and sent from the devil. LOL. It was obsessive seeming to me. It was like he was a whole different person overnight to me. And I resent religion for taking my father away. I also resent it because it doesn't make logical sense to me and can be used as an excuse for horrible actions. When you point out a flaw, religious ideas double back on themselves to explain it. Ideals double back on themselves to explain it away in contradictory ways, which is true. I feel religion tries to put words and rules to something incomprehensible. Obviously super resentful of traditional religion, at least for sure Christianity. But at the same time, I think there's something larger than ourselves and humanity that can sometimes be felt. I just don't think it's what religious shaped it to be. Just kind of how I feel about it. That must have been really confusing as a child. Your father, like, being fun and outgoing and teaching you fun things that, like, aren't going to hurt anyone. And then totally flips on a dime. The part where she says, I'm mad at religion for taking my father away. Like, that's sad. The father she knew as a child is gone. And some mental health might be involved in that. But you have another story?
Yes. It says, going through depression at 23, my mother called her church's pastor to have a meeting to help, quote unquote, fix me. Basically, the story goes as the title says. I would like to preface this by saying I'm about to be 30 next month. Wait, I'm about to the 30 next month. I'm about to the 30.
Maybe I just meant to be 30.
I'm about to be 30 next month, and my mother has made a complete 180 for the better on how I should approach my mental health. Basically, when I was 23, I went through a really tough breakup, got laid off from a good job I liked, struggled to find myself, figure out what I wanted to do for a career. I struggled to find myself, figure out what I wanted to do for a career. I grew up in a Baptist Christian household. I don't think it was as toxic as a lot of folks. I was expected to go with them to church. God/Jesus was part of my life. It just seemed like a chore. Fast forward to my 20s, I'm going through my depression stage, and instead of trying to help me set up with a therapist, psychiatrist, my mom thought it would be a good idea for me to meet with my childhood pastor, who was the head pastor at our church growing up. Needless to say, everything he cited didn't make me feel any better about myself. Naturally, it was presented to me in a way that my relationship with God isn't strong enough as to why I'm depressed and going through issues. I literally prayed all the time for years and nothing got better. My mom finally started taking my mental health more seriously when she find a psychiatrist. I never had been suicidal or anything like that. Just had problems of going days at a time with just not wanting to be around people. My mom is way better now at talking to me about my mental health and not invoking anything to do with religion. Did any of y'all have the same experience as you realize as adults that you need to seek actual mental health professionals? Yes. Absolutely.
That goes back to us talking about, like, mental health doesn't exist. You pray it away, and if you believe in God, and that goes back to, like, the power of prayer. If you believe hard enough and if you pray hard enough, God will fix you. But then what happens if you're not fixed?
Yeah.
then you didn't. It's your fault that you're not fixed. That's so sad.
It kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, Santa. Like
people call it the Santa, like a Santa. Yeah.
Yeah, like imagine if there are parents who just cannot, they're barely making it. They're working paycheck to paycheck and they can't afford, gifts under the tree. And the kids are over here hearing about how, oh, you just write to Santa, you tell him exactly what you want, and he'll bring it to you. And then it doesn't happen.
Yep. And then they're like, well, what's wrong with me? Why didn't Santa love me as much as they loved my classmate Billy?
Yeah.
Who got 10 things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, like blessed and highly favored.
Yeah. Which I just gotta say, that's gotta be tough as a parent, having a kid, or just in general. Like there's so many comparisons and like kids trying to flex or whatever, and it's just hard if you're trying to like live a modest life, or whatever, you just don't have to give. And I remember like I had on these like fake Vans when I was in 6th grade, and I got made fun of. And like at the time, like I was so ignorant as a kid that you could try to make fun of me and I wouldn't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Like to me, I was like, what do you mean? Like to me, these are brand new shoes. Like what do you mean you're making fun of me just because they're not name brand, but they're brand new? Like what do you mean? In my mind, I was like, well, they're new shoes to me. I love them, and they're not name brand, okay, but they're brand new. Like I went to a church and got this, and like. It was exciting.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, back to the Santa thing. It was like...
Oh, yeah.
But anywho, just a few more things I want to say, and then we can wrap it up since we're getting to the end of this recording.
And I keep yawning.
One thing that we haven't talked a lot about in this episode, which I think is worth mentioning again, is that every single day there is... mental, physical, emotional, and sexual abuse happening in churches, or even by other family members, even by other family members, and they're done in the name of God. Like God wants me to do this. Like there was a TikTok I saw that was like, yeah, this youth pastor like came over and he like put his hand on my thigh and he's like, pretend I'm God. Yeah, like saying that. Like your body is the temple, and the temple belongs to God, like, transitive properties. Pretend I'm God, and like starts touching her. Like that actually is happening. You cannot say it's not happening, because it is.
Oh my God.
Okay. I also have some statistics that I'd like to read. 1 in 3 people in the US, 1 in 3 adults have experienced religious trauma at some point in their life. And as many as 15 to 20% of U.S. adults currently suffer from it today. 1 in 3.
Wow.
1 in 3 people have suffered religious trauma of some sort. That's a lot. And that's a statistic. I'll put that in the show notes so that you can read it if you want.
And this, I hope people aren't taking it like if you were raised in any religion, you will have religious trauma. No. That's not the case. Or if you're raising a child in religion, that's not the case.
No.
Like,
and we're not saying that we think you shouldn't, or that we think you shouldn't be still a part of your religion. Just be careful about what's being taught, because it can be damaging, especially when the church doesn't believe in mental health, and then the things that are being taught can actually affect mental health, especially for people who are young. So I have some list of causes of what religious trauma can cause, like long term. I'm going to try to just go through them really quickly. Suppression of normal child development, cognitive, social, emotional, and moral stages are arrested. Damage to normal thinking and feeling abilities. Information is limited and controlled. Dysfunctional beliefs taught. Independent thinking condemned. Feelings condemned. So like you're not allowed to think for yourself. You have to think, as the community. External locus of control. Knowledge is revealed, not discovered. Hierarchy of authority enforced. Self not a reliable or good source. Literally, you're taught not to believe your own thoughts or to think for yourself. Physical and sexual abuse, patriarchal power, unhealthy sexual views, punishment used as for discipline. I feel like there's a couple other things that I screenshotted. I just want to double check. And there's actually a condition that people can have, which is called religious trauma syndrome. And it's a few of the things that I just named off, but basically brought on by all the things that we talked about today. So if this episode made you feel uneasy, it probably should have. If this episode made you upset at us, I urge you to think about why. I urge you to at least validate the stories of people who have actually experienced these things, because we didn't just pull them out of our ass. They've actually happened to people. There's a podcast called Something Was Wrong, and I believe season 5 is a big story of a woman who went through some religious trauma in relation to a man that she married that was not a good man. Yeah. So I hope you guys got a lot from this. Do you have anything else to say?
I'm sleepy.
Yeah.
It's midnight.
It's past midnight. It's 12:30.
It's midnight and a half.
Midnight and a half. So anyway, I hope you guys learned a lot from this. I hope you've maybe learned a little bit about yourself, because some people don't even know they have religious trauma until someone else starts comparing notes. So
or they're so used to like, oh, this is just what it is.
Right. That's just, well, and that's the problem, is when you're raised from it, your worldview is this view only.
Yeah.
And it takes until you're an adult to really deconstruct it. So just know that we're validating your experiences, and we are supportive of your experiences. And reach out to us if you'd like, and we'll validate you even more. But yeah, let us know what you thought. Catch us on Instagram and TikTok, and we'll see y'all next week.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.